Captain Elias Cross scanned the Earth Space Alliance's command center, his eyes drawn to the flashing red lights and the urgent hum of voices that filled the room. He had known tension in his years of service, but never like this. Not when humanity's very survival hung in the balance. A sudden transmission crackled through the room's intercom, cutting through the din with brutal clarity. "Attention, Earth Space Alliance!" An alien voice announced, its tone sharp and unyielding. "The Galactic Council hereby declares humanity a hostile threat. All Alliance vessels are to stand down immediately, or face the consequences." Elias gripped the edge of his console, feeling a chill settle in his chest. "They're declaring war?" he murmured, barely able to process the words. It was impossible. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained a fragile but enduring peace. Humanity, though young by galactic standards, had been a respected ally, part of the unified network of species working toward shared prosperity. Beside him, Kale, his young and brash lieutenant, scowled. "I knew we couldn't trust them. All those years of peaceful coexistence, just a front." Kale's fists were clenched, his voice tight with fury. "They've probably been waiting for the right moment to wipe us out." "Hold on," Elias cautioned, struggling to remain calm. "We don't know the full story yet. Declaring war without provocation doesn't make sense, even for the Council." His voice was steady, but his mind raced, running through every possible explanation. He had always been a diplomat at heart, believing in negotiation over conflict, but this declaration struck a deep and unsettling chord. Kale huffed, his frustration palpable. "We can't just sit back and hope for answers, Captain. If they've turned on us, we need to be ready. This could be our only chance to prepare defenses before they attack." Elias took a deep breath, pushing aside his own rising doubts. "We're not jumping to conclusions. Not yet. We owe it to ourselves, and to everyone back on Earth, to find out why this is happening." He met Kale's gaze, his voice unwavering. "There has to be more to this than we're seeing." A nearby officer's voice broke into their conversation. "Sir, there's an encrypted message coming in, Council seal. It's addressed directly to you, Captain Cross." Elias frowned, exchanging a quick glance with Kale. "Patch it through." The screen on his console flickered to life, revealing the imposing face of General Viresh, the Council's chief of defense. His scaled features were cold, eyes narrowed with thinly veiled disdain. "Captain Cross," he began, voice like gravel, "it has come to our attention that humanity has violated the sacred terms of our alliance. Unauthorized technological advancements, environmental exploitation, destabilizing actions in neighboring systems. The evidence is substantial." Elias's jaw tightened. "General Viresh, these accusations are unfounded. Humanity has abided by every agreement set forth by the Council. You know this as well as I do." Viresh's eyes glinted with something close to satisfaction. "The Council is no longer interested in your denials, Captain. Humanity has become a threat. You are to surrender unconditionally. This is your only warning." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Elias looked down at his hands still gripping the console, his knuckles white. The ultimatum was clear: surrender, or face annihilation. Kale broke the silence, his voice trembling with barely restrained anger. "What do we do, Captain? If we wait, they'll wipe us out." Elias exhaled slowly, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Every instinct told him to fight, to defend humanity's place among the stars. But he also knew that rushing into battle could doom them all. "We'll go to the Council's homeworld," he said finally. "If there's a chance to avert war, we'll find it there." Kale's eyes flashed with a mix of skepticism and admiration. "You really think they'll listen?" Elias straightened, his gaze steely. "If they won't listen, we'll make them." With that, he turned to his crew. "Prepare the diplomatic vessel. We leave for the Council's territory at once. Humanity's survival depends on what we do next." As the command center bustled with activity, Elias's resolve solidified. Whatever awaited them, he would face it head-on. For his people, for peace, and for the chance to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. Captain Elias Cross sat rigidly in the cockpit of the diplomatic vessel, watching as the planet of Ariathus, the capital of the Galactic Council, loomed closer through the viewport. The Council had granted them entry, but the warships flanking them made it clear they were not welcome. He glanced at Kale, whose restless energy was barely contained as he adjusted the controls with a frown. "Looks like they rolled out the red carpet," Kale muttered, nodding toward the fleet. The faint glint of the warship's weapons cast an ominous glow against the planet's atmosphere. "Stay focused," Elias replied, eyes locked on their path. "Our goal is to understand their intentions, not provoke them further." The diplomatic vessel shuddered as it passed through the planet's thick, violet-tinted atmosphere. Ariathus's capital, Varilai, stretched below them, sleek spires rising from dense city blocks that shimmered under the alien sun, as if pulsing with energy. But despite its beauty, the city felt hostile. Shadows cast by towering structures seemed to follow their descent, dark and watchful. As they disembarked, a contingent of council guards awaited them, their expressions as cold as their steel-gray uniforms. Elias and Kale exchanged a glance before stepping forward. "We will escort you to the chamber," the lead guard announced. His voice held a metallic edge, devoid of warmth. Elias straightened, his face a mask of calm. "Lead the way." The corridors of the council's headquarters stretched in endless monotony, with smooth, polished walls that reflected faint lights overhead. The silence was stifling. Elias noted every detail: how the walls gleamed too brightly, how the air smelled faintly metallic, how even their footsteps seemed swallowed by the building's hollow vastness. Kale, usually eager to speak, remained uncharacteristically quiet. His eyes shifted, taking in every exit and guard, fingers twitching by his side as if ready for a fight. "Relax, Lieutenant," Elias whispered, catching his friend's unease. "We're here to listen. They know that." Kale exhaled sharply, his gaze hard. "I just don't trust them, Captain. This place feels wrong." Finally, they reached the council chamber. It was a vast, circular room with seats arranged in tiers, each filled by representatives of alien species, scaled, feathered, and armored, each bearing the insignia of their worlds. At the highest seat sat General Vieresh, his piercing eyes trained on Elias, expression coldly triumphant. "Captain Cross," Vieresh began, his voice resonating with authority. "We expected your compliance, not defiance. And yet here you are, as arrogant as ever." Elias held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. "General Vieresh, humanity has upheld every principle of this alliance. I'm here to understand why you seek war against us. If we have transgressed, let the evidence be shown." A murmur swept through the chamber, though Vieresh's eyes remained fixed on Elias. "You wish for evidence? Very well." He raised a hand, and holograms flared to life above the chamber, displaying scenes of destruction, planets burned, debris fields swirling in space, ships bearing the Alliance's emblem firing on civilian outposts. The images flickered with terrifying realism. Kale's fists clenched as he stared up, face twisted in disbelief. "This is fabricated," he hissed under his breath. "We've done nothing like this." Elias's mind raced as he studied the images. Something was wrong. The tactics, the targets, these weren't the actions of the Earth-Space Alliance. They felt staged, designed to provoke outrage. He looked back at Vieresh, voice steady. "This is a lie. Humanity would never commit these atrocities. I demand a thorough investigation." The general's expression darkened, his tone dismissive. "You demand nothing here, Captain. Humanity has shown its true nature, and the Council will ensure it is dealt with." The guards moved forward, surrounding Elias and Kale, weapons drawn. Kale's hand instinctively went to his sidearm, eyes flashing with fury, but Elias raised a hand to stop him. "Not here," he murmured. Vieresh leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Your kind's time in this galaxy is over, Captain. We will erase every trace of your existence, just as you tried to erase ours." As they were led away, Elias's mind raced, searching for options. They had come for answers, but they'd found only deceit and a looming threat that reached far beyond themselves. He glanced at Cale, who met his gaze, determination etched on his face. "We're not giving up," Elias whispered. "Not here, not like this." The guards marched them deeper into the shadowed corridors. As they disappeared into the depths of the Council's stronghold, one thought burned in Elias's mind: if he and Cale could uncover the truth, they might just stand a chance. The cell door clanged shut behind Elias and Cale, plunging them into near darkness. A single, dim light buzzed above, casting their faces in stark shadows. Elias paced the cramped cell, his mind racing. They'd come seeking peace, only to be branded traitors, and now their very survival hung by a thread. Cale leaned against the cold, metal wall, his face hard with determination. "They'll never let us out of here, Captain. You saw Viresh's face. He's made up his mind." Elias nodded, fighting back frustration. "There's more to this than Viresh's personal vendetta. The Council's afraid of something big enough that they're willing to manufacture lies and push for war." "But what? Why now?" Cale clenched his fists. "Maybe they're just threatened by us. Humanity's innovations, our resilience. They've been watching us grow stronger, and now they're trying to stop us before we pose a real challenge." Elias paused, considering. There was truth in Cale's words, but he sensed a deeper fear in the Council's actions, something that went beyond mere rivalry. He thought of the fabricated images, the strategic destruction designed to incite fury. The Council was hiding something, an internal vulnerability that made humanity a convenient scapegoat. A faint scraping sound interrupted his thoughts. From the other side of the cell wall, a panel slowly slid open, revealing a figure cloaked in a dark, hooded robe. The figure's face was obscured, but its voice was soft, resonant with urgency. "Captain Elias Cross. Lieutenant Cale Tanner." Elias took a step forward, wary but intrigued. "Who are you?" The figure glanced over its shoulder before responding. "A friend. If you want to survive and discover the truth, you need to trust me. I can get you out of here." Cale raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "And why should we trust some cloaked stranger who could be leading us into a trap?" The figure's hood tilted, and in the dim light, Elias could just make out a flicker of emotion, a mix of sympathy and resolve. "Because I am someone who also wants the truth to come to light. You aren't the only ones being manipulated by Viresh. The Council hides many secrets that endanger us all." Elias exchanged a look with Cale, his resolve hardening. "We don't have a choice. If we're going to save humanity, we need allies." With a quick nod, the stranger motioned for them to follow. Elias and Cale slipped through the narrow passage, the walls pressing close as they moved deeper into the labyrinthine network beneath the Council headquarters. The air was damp, tinged with the scent of stale metal and stone. After a few tense minutes of silence, Cale couldn't hold back any longer. "So, are you going to tell us who you really are?" The figure's voice lowered. "My name is Tala. I'm one of the Council's analysts. I've seen the fabricated evidence, heard the Council's discussions. Viresh and his faction are using humanity as a cover. They fear an uprising, species within the Council who feel oppressed, overlooked. A rebellion is brewing, and they're desperate to unite everyone against a common enemy." Elias's eyes narrowed. "And humanity is that enemy?" Tala nodded grimly. "Your species is young, ambitious. You've accomplished much in a short time. To them, you're a rallying point, an excuse to tighten control. If they can convince the galaxy that you're a threat, they can solidify their power." They continued down a narrow corridor, their footsteps echoing softly. As they rounded a corner, Tala abruptly halted, holding up a hand for silence. In the dimness, Elias could hear the muffled footsteps of a patrol passing above them, then fading away. Tala let out a breath and continued. "There's a communications relay on the lower levels. I can patch you through to an Earth Space Alliance base. If you can broadcast the truth, expose the Council's deception, you might just stand a chance." Cale's face lit up with determination. "Broadcast the truth? I like the sound of that." Elias placed a firm hand on Kale's shoulder, steadying him. We'll need more than a broadcast. We need to find undeniable proof, something the Council can't deny. Tala glanced back, a small, hopeful smile breaking her usually solemn expression. If anyone can make them listen, it's you, Captain. I believe humanity has a role in this galaxy far greater than the Council wants to admit. Let's make sure you live to see it. As they pressed on, Elias felt a surge of purpose rekindled within him. For the first time since their capture, hope was more than a distant glimmer. They had a plan, an ally, and a chance, however slim, to turn the tide. At the end of the dark corridor, Tala paused, gesturing toward a rusted door. The relay's just beyond. Once we're through, there's no going back. Elias nodded, his resolve unwavering. Then let's make every step count. Elias wiped his damp palms on his uniform as he and Kale huddled near the old communications console. The room around them was dark and cavernous, with thick cables snaking across the floor and walls, and a low hum of power vibrating beneath their feet. Tala adjusted the console's settings, her fingers moving with practiced speed as she bypassed security layers and activated the relay. You're sure this will get through to the ESA network? Kale whispered, his voice taut with urgency. Tala nodded, not breaking her focus. If they're listening on the secure channels, they'll hear you. But it's risky. Once you start broadcasting, it won't be long before the Council detects us. We'll only have a few minutes, so make it count. Elias took a deep breath, his mind racing with everything he wanted to say. This was their one chance to expose the Council's lies, to reveal the threat humanity faced. He leaned toward the microphone as Tala gave him a nod, signaling that the connection was live. This is Captain Elias Cross of the Earth Space Alliance, speaking from the heart of the Galactic Council's detention center. He began, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. To anyone listening on Earth and beyond, you need to hear the truth. Humanity is not the enemy. He took a breath, letting his words sink in before continuing. The Council has fabricated evidence against us, using humanity as a scapegoat to unify their ranks against a phantom threat. But the real danger comes from within. They're hiding a rebellion, a movement among the Council's own factions, species who refuse to be oppressed any longer. They want to shift the blame onto us to keep themselves in power. Kale's eyes gleamed with fierce pride as he watched Elias deliver the message, and Tala remained poised at the console, her gaze darting nervously toward the door. Every second counted, but Elias felt an urgency to convey every detail, every truth they'd uncovered. He pressed on. We have allies within the Council, those who believe that peace is possible and that humanity deserves a place in this galaxy. We ask for your support, for your trust. Stand with us, and together we can expose the corruption that threatens us all. A sudden, harsh blare echoed through the room, and Tala's face paled. They're onto us. Guards will be here any second. Elias's hand tightened around the microphone. Humanity has always fought for freedom and justice. We will not be silenced. He cut the transmission, meeting Kale's determined gaze. Now we just have to get out of here alive. The heavy stomp of boots approached, and Tala frantically led them to a concealed exit behind the console. This way, hurry! She whispered, urgency lacing her voice. They darted through the hidden passage, their footsteps echoing in the narrow corridor. The air was thick with tension, each turn heightening the risk of discovery. Tala guided them through twisting tunnels, her familiarity with the layout their only lifeline. Just as they rounded the final bend toward the shuttle hangar, a squad of Council guards appeared, blocking their path. Weapons raised, their alien eyes gleamed with ruthless intent. Elias stepped forward resolute, holding his hands up to show he was unarmed. We know the truth, he said, his voice steady but carrying an undeniable edge. You may silence us, but the broadcast is out. The galaxy will know what the Council has done. For a heartbeat, the guards hesitated, their expressions betraying a flicker of doubt. Then, from behind them, a new voice spoke, a Council officer Elias recognized as one who'd spoken out against Viresh during the trial. Let them go, the officer commanded, his tone filled with defiance. The truth has a way of spreading, even if you try to bury it. The guards exchanged uncertain glances before, one by one, lowering their weapons. Tala nudged Elias and Kale forward, leading them through the hangar toward a small, unmarked shuttle. As they climbed aboard, Elias cast a final look at the council officer, nodding in silent gratitude. The shuttle door closed, and within moments they were lifting off, leaving the council's stronghold behind. As the stars stretched before them, Elias felt a weight lift from his chest. The truth was out there now, a beacon for humanity and allies alike. Whatever came next, they would face it together, stronger, united, and unafraid.